Welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with, the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. New interviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so a good time to subscribe if you're not already. You can find us iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all the other places in podcast land. I'm Kyle Meredith, and I am so excited to have one of my old good buddies back on the series here, Mr. Jim James of My Morning Jackets. It's good to see you, sir.
How's it going?
It's going all right. And it's nice to say, at the moment, not that we couldn't always say it, but of My Morning Jacket, because here we are in a little surprise situation where we're talking about a new jacket release with the Waterfall II. This is something you've been sitting on for a while, right? I mean, these were are all of these songs from these same sessions that the original Waterfall album are from?
Yeah, we did so many songs that when we first finished it all, we kind of thought we'd make like a triple record or whatever, but it just, when we were sitting there like listening to it, and it just seemed like it was just like way too much to release. So we split it in half. And yeah, we didn't really know when we would release the other half, and back then, I mean, so much has happened personally and in the world since then, but, it's just been such a strange path. We knew we'd release it someday, but we really didn't know when.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dylan did 5 discs of the Sinatra covers, and one of those was a triple album. So it's not like that was unheard of during this time.
Yeah, totally.
Although it was probably too much, honestly, for Dylan to do 5 discs of Sinatra.
It's never too much for Dylan. Never too much for him.
So all the songs are from then, the album is from then. Is everything still, like, are these actually the recorded versions from then? Did you all take the opportunity to go back and, tweak anything, update anything? Because that's all musicians, you talk about it, over the years, like, oh, I wish I'd done that. Like, you actually had that luxury if you wanted it.
Yeah, no, these are the recordings from then. There's a couple we hadn't mixed yet that we mixed now, but Tucker Martine mixed them through the same gear we mixed the Waterfall 1 through. So it's all the same thing. I'm a big fan of leaving things alone from when they were, other than like remastering them, or sometimes you do things like that. But I feel like it's almost like a time machine, because I listen to these songs and it's a different me. It's a different set of people because it was recorded so long ago. And to me, that's cool, because I feel like if I got in there now and started changing it, it would be so different. So that's something that, because we did one song, one of these songs for Fallon that'll come out next week on Fallon. So we re-recorded it, and it was so interesting to play it as the me now, and I was just like, whoa, this is crazy, because it's just like I sing it a little different or whatever, and it's just, but that's part of the beauty, I think, of recordings for all of us, for music fans, is like it is like a time machine in so many ways, for the listener and for the artist, that it's so cool to see a song grow over the years. So it was interesting to like play one of these songs new after hearing it again.
Yeah. Well, that is interesting too, because of course you all, are as much known as a live band as a studio band, and the way the songs grow, we get to hear those over the years. But again, having this moment where you've spent the time with these songs more than we have, other than a couple, that had made their own way out, and we'll talk about those here in just a little bit. But also, as you said, like, the world has changed a lot since you put these out. There were moments, there were conversations happening around the time that you wrote these that, we're unfortunately still having to this day. But do you hear any of them now? Do you hear anything different in them now than maybe when you originally, conceived them?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just like, I mean, when I decided to bring these songs back out, it was during I'll call it phase 1 of the pandemic, where we were all kind of tucked in our pandemic isolated worlds, trying to figure out this new reality and stuff. And I stumbled upon one of the songs, "Spinning My Wheels" on shuffle. It came up on my while I was taking a walk one day, and I like listened to it, and I listened to the rest of the Waterfall II, and I was like, oh man, this is like maybe this is a good time to release this now because it feels kind of reflective to me, and it feels kind of something maybe people will enjoy sitting with and being reflective about their own lives, and and then we've kind of had this phase two of the pandemic with just the world is exploding, and the George Floyd protests that kind of started everything, and the Breonna Taylor murder, and all this stuff that's going on. So I hope, I think every artist always hopes that their music lasts, is always relevant, and I hope people, as the world continues to change, find some healing in this music.
Yeah. Well, that does, I think, speak specifically to one of the songs that you had released early, because Magic Bullet is obviously on the record. It had come out a few years ago. In fact, it had come out, it arrived during gun-related killings in 2016. I apologize for not remembering who was involved in that, but that's sort of one of those songs that have that unfortunate tie. Like, I'm guessing that's not lost on you, right?
No, well, that's one of the saddest things about that song is I was talking to somebody about that song the other day, and it's like, what a sad fact when there's so many episodes of gun violence that you can't even remember which one you wrote the song about. It's like that's how sad is that you and I are sitting here trying to remember, which one of all of these terrible episodes of gun violence. And yeah, it's just like the whole thing with guns that's so sad. It's just like there's this thought that these bullets can solve something, and it's like they never solve anything. They just create more mess. And there's just this hope in the song, and this plea in the song that we can find a different way around this, but we need each other's help to do it, and we need I mean, we need so much, but it's just like we need serious conversations and real ability to listen to each other, and I think the symbolism of the whole gun debate is one I think that kind of is the United States in a nutshell, because people are so passionate on both sides. People are so angry on both sides, and I think it's really a matter. I think we all need to get better at listening to each other, and trying to just stop the anger for a minute to get to a place of clear and rational discussion, because we're never going to get anywhere if we just keep fighting about everything. It feels like we've really like turned into this big fighting machine. It's like and it's just sad to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the last time you and I talked, I mean, this was, I think, part of the conversation. This has been a few years ago, but I remember you saying it's like, when people actually get face to face with each other, the conversation is very different. Yeah. And I think we were probably doing a comparison to, what the online culture, how that sparks so much, and that real weird imaginary world of the cloud and whatnot. But here we have, in another sense, in 2020, conversations are now happening louder than they've ever happened. To me, it feels like obviously they're sticking around longer than, yesterday's news in the 2-week cycle that, what we might have had when Magic Bullet was, originally released and everything. And I'll bring up, you mentioned two names, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor from right here in Louisville, and I know you've been spending your time outside of the city for a while now. I know this is probably an obvious question, but what's that been like for you to kind of see all of this from afar, not just as a name on the news from any city, but specifically from your hometown?
Hey, it's heartbreaking. I mean, just even talking about it makes me want to cry, because it's just. I've been going to the protests here in Los Angeles, and trying to support online, trying to educate myself, in all these matters about demilitarizing the police and figuring out like how we can better structure our world so these things don't happen. The Breonna Taylor thing. I mean, there's so many conversations around police brutality and defunding the police and demilitarizing the police, but the Breonna Taylor thing, to me, how a person can be murdered in their own home while they're sleeping and have there still be no justice for that is just heartbreakingly insane. And the fact that more of our leaders, even from the police, aren't demanding justice for this woman who's killed in her own home, this innocent person, is just baffling to me. It's like I know it's not simple. I know that restructuring the government and eradicating systemic racism and white supremacy, those aren't overnight things. But I think people want to hear more passion from our leaders, more of a resolve saying we will figure this out, we will get justice. And again, I think it's a conversation people need to have rationally with the police too. So people are talking to the police and saying like, hey, like we're not trying to like wipe out all of your jobs and take away all of the good things that police departments do bring, but we do have to look at this police brutality and really address it and restructure and move people around, demilitarize the police, take away, the warfare weaponry that they have is just insane. It's just, obviously we could talk about it forever, but the Breonna Taylor thing is just like, it's just crushing. It just crushes me every time I think about it.
Yeah, and you and I have both worked with some of the leaders who, I'm not speaking for you, I'm speaking for me personally here, but it's been very frustrating. It's been very frustrating to see the inaction that's been happening here in the city from these leaders that you and I do know. And, I do enjoy it was really the wrong word here. I'm really, really excited to see that the conversation is now specifically about, as you said, demilitarizing the police, because I don't think that's, we've been talking about police brutality for a long time. You're in LA, we can go all the way back to the 90s and way back before that even, in this conversation. But it seems like right now we're finally honing in on something. But I will say here in the city, it's very frustrating that action isn't happening faster,
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Yeah, so see about that. Well, anyway, as we digress, tying back to the to the record here, there's no smooth transition for this at all. But with the Waterfall II, those moments do crop up in here with, like I said, with Magic Bullet. I know that's not the overarching theme that goes along with this record, as it did Find You in a Different Spot. But, you hear it in the title, obviously. It's brought up in Run It. And I think you even said it, maybe it was a press release or another interview with Learning to Flow with Life. And the water concept seems to be really on your mind with what was happening around here. And maybe now, I imagine there's a metaphor to that is not completely literal.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it came from that song "Run It" that I wrote while I was at the water, and just thinking about how obviously we're made of water, we're mostly water, and we all have this desire. In Louisville, it's a big thing too, as you and I know. There's so many times in Louisville where I want to get to the river. If I'm troubled or I'm trying to process something, I'll go to my favorite spot on the river, and go to the water. And everybody knows the feeling of wanting to go to the ocean or go to the lake or go to these places of water because it is so healing. And then you think about even things like people like Bruce Lee, talking about being water, and learning to flow like water, and just thinking about that, because our world right now is so rigid, it's so it's like stone, it's like I feel like the anger in our world, nobody's flowing anymore, everybody's clashing, and I think it's time for us all to wake up before it's too late. And find ourselves somewhere in the flow, in the middle. Because I really feel like we talked about earlier, if people can really look each other in the eye and turn off the news and turn off the media and turn off all of the BS and really meet each other in the center, we can find some common ground, and then try to vote on that common ground instead of voting against our own self-interests, instead of yelling at each other and fighting and clashing and blah, blah, blah. It's like, just trying to find that place where we can all flow together, even in the way. And I love talking about this because I think we need to talk about it more. finding a way we can flow together and agree to disagree about so many things, because we're never going to agree about everything, but we've got to find a way to stop fighting. And I really feel like the politicians have done such a good job of pitting us against each other, especially this current administration. Uh, our current president is a master at divide and conquer. And that can't be understated. And people need to realize that we aren't each other's enemies. That we have been manipulated into this divide and conquer strategy that's working too well on us. And it's up to all of us to really wake up from that.
Yeah, it's the culture of fear is strong, and it does a lot to a lot of minds. It's I was thinking about that water thing, and I even thought, wait, didn't he go to the desert for a little bit? Wasn't he stuck? Of course, you'd want to go to the water. Weren't you in like a Joshua Tree for a little while?
Oh yeah, I mean you need all the environments. Yeah, I mean I love every environment, but that song, the theme of water keeps popping up from that song "Run It" that's on this record, and I mean, even in the desert, water pops up more than anything because you need it. You need it so bad.
That song's a really interesting sounding on the record too, because I'm hoping I remember this right. I mean, it's one of the more minimal sounding songs on the record. I was trying to remember exactly where you guys were, what you were talking about when the Waterfall came out, because I felt like you were talking a lot about soul music and kind of leaning into that a little bit. But obviously there's more that goes along with it, as we hear on Run It. Feel You. My wife Jen, Jen, she really quickly mentioned it, gave her a John Lennon vibe, which
Nice.
I thought was really good. And then there's that sweeping piano in Beautiful Love. I mean, talk about, that's a different thing for you all. Do you remember like where you all were musically when you were creating these?
Well, I mean, musically, I feel like I'm always all over the place when I'm writing songs because I just love every type of music. And when we did this record, we were out there in Stinson Beach so long that we just kind of drifted from one thing into the other. It's like the environment, we kind of set it up. We were lucky enough to get into the studio for a really great price so we could spend more time out there. And there were just so many magical moments where the day kind of flowed into a song, and the song flowed into the day. Like Run It, when we did that song, we set up like a real simple setup, and Patrick was playing a box or something, and it was all really simple, and then the power went out. It was like there's just all these cool little things that flowed into that whole magical time out there.
Yeah. That's it does make for a whole thing. But that's the thing. So these, they all come from them, and then the band talked about, I say come from them, it came from that time, as you said. And then the band talked about how it was time to go on hiatus. Now we have a new record, but it's a new record from a past time. Is the hiatus over? Is this another stopgap? I mean, what's the future?
That's one of the most frustrating things about the pandemic. I mean, for everybody, but for us, we did 4 shows at the end of 2019 or in 2019 or whatever that really re-energized us and brought us back to life. We're like, let's get back at it. So we went in the studio and we have a whole new record that we're finishing, completely new record, and we had dates set up for this coming fall, which obviously we have to cancel because of the pandemic, just like everybody else. So now it's kind of that's part of the puzzle now that everybody's trying to figure out is, whenever the new album is done, but it's like whenever we release it, we want to play shows for it. Obviously, it's like we want to make it a thing. Because it's so exciting to have these new songs and want to play them live, and we really recorded them really live. It was just the 5 of us, and literally nobody else, just the 5 of us, and we played, and it was so exciting and so fun. But now we're kind of in this holding pattern, with everybody, So at least in that regard, it's like we're all in this together, trying to figure it out. But that was another thing when I stumbled upon the Waterfall II music again, is I kind of felt like, well, this is kind of a cool way to hopefully ease the band back into life, because we feel excited to be a band again. That excitement has come back, and we're lucky that we still have the second half of the last record we did. So let's put that out. Hopefully that'll buy us a little time, before the I mean, I know we're all like so ready for life to return, and for so many reasons, So yeah, who knows when.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting, and that's actually what I was hoping for. It's like okay, the band's back, but are they? So that's really cool. And I know that's not the only thing you're doing right now too, because we and it's been happening for a while. We get these records, and the first thing people tell us, like, oh, by the way, it's produced by Jim James. S.G. Goodman, I think, is the latest one, which we've got her Old Time Feelings song just blasting over the WFPK airwaves right now. Yeah. What else is going on? Are you able to still do that? Are you able to collaborate in those producing manners from afar in any of this, or has that been put on hold as well?
Yeah, I mean, really, in this time, it's been mostly finishing this new jacket record I've been working on, finishing that. No, I mean, there really hasn't been any. I've been doing lots of little performances and things, online things and stuff like that. But I'm not working on anything. I'm really, really excited about that S.G. Goodman record, and yeah, I'm not really working on anything else right now.
Yeah. She's a cool one, man. I mean, I know she's new to all of us. That's a really cool record that you guys have.
I think she's got such an important voice that it's so cool to hear people hear that record, because everybody's like, there's just something like different about it, because she's coming in this vein that we're all familiar with, but she's got such a special new twist on everything, on everything she does, that I really feel like it's something people really need to hear. I'm really excited for people to hear her.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It just sounds great too. I mean, on top of that, I had to use cliches like raw, or it's got a punk vibe to it sometimes, but I love hearing it. So cool, man. The Waterfall II, it's so great to have this out into the world. So thank you all for taking the time and using this moment here to finally give us this thing that, has been a bit of a mystery for a few years. So getting it out there, man, we're really enjoying what we're hearing. Obviously, we're going to look forward to what comes next. And I know everybody wants to see the jacket live again. So whenever we're all doing that. So
yeah.
Yeah, man. It was great talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time today, man.
Thanks.
And take care. We'll see you around.
All right, bud. Thanks. Bye.